Letting go of the fantasy that one day my parents will finally understand me, apologize, and be the parents that I needed is one of the most intense emotional breakups one can go through. It isn't giving up, it's facing reality without self betrayal. The fantasy was safer than grieving. Hope felt like connection. Hope meant the story wasn't over yet. Letting go means confronting something profoundly painful. They may never become the parent that you needed. Their inability to see you is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their limited emotional capacity. The fantasy protected you from despair when you were a child and couldn't leave. It gave you something to hold on to when you didn't have power. As an adult, the fantasy may be keeping you emotionally tethered to someone who is not going to meet you. Recognizing that the fantasy is a coping mechanism rather than destiny helps one develop compassion for the self rather than feeling shame. You don't fail for finally putting the fantasy down. You put it down because you finally matured enough to realize it's not wise to sit and wait for someone who isn't coming. Letting go is almost always tied to grief. You're not just letting go of the dream of being understood. You're letting go of the parent you needed, the childhood you deserved, conversations that will never happen, an apology that isn't coming, and the nurturing you were never given. This grief is sacred, and it means that your inner child is finally realizing the truth. You weren't unlovable. Their emotional capacity was limited. Once the grief moves, space opens. Energy that was once spent trying to extract recognition from someone who has none to give becomes yours again. Grief brings clarity, hope brings delay. Part of letting go is naming the reality. They may never be capable of seeing you. Emotional insight requires skills such as empathy, accountability, and self reflection. Emotionally immature or toxic parents typically do everything but self reflect. They minimize, they defend, they rewrite history, they blame. Oftentimes, they simply don't have the wiring to meet you emotionally. Coming to terms with this isn't cruelty, it's accepting reality. You cannot drink from an empty well. Healing involves shifting from needing external validation to honoring internal truth. Instead of waiting to be seen, you begin to see yourself. You honor your memories. You validate your experiences. You treat your pain as real without needing it to pass through an approval filter. You replace the longing of, if only they'd understand me, with, I'm no longer abandoning myself to chase your understanding. This shift moves you from waiting to living. Letting go also requires reparenting yourself, reparenting the nervous system. The fantasy wasn't just psychological, it was physiological. The body was used to bracing, hoping, pleasing, explaining. Letting go feels like withdrawal at first. You may feel numb, angry, sad, relieved, or guilty. All of this is normal. Eventually, something softer takes its place: steadiness, peace, self trust, acceptance. You stop rehearsing speeches. You stop needing approval to live. Silence stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like protection. Letting go creates space for healthy connections. When you begin to stop begging emotionally unsafe people to treat you well, you begin to notice who can and does treat you well. You build relationships where you're already seen instead of continuously auditioning for love, and you begin to learn what secure attachment feels like. Letting go is not forgetting or pretending you don't care. It is honoring the truth of what happened and refusing to place your worth in the hands of someone who mishandled you. The moment you stop chasing their understanding is when you can return to yourself and finally find the love, acceptance, and recognition that you've been hoping they'd give. Have a good day.